When life falls apart, calm is not a luxury, it's survival. That truth is what most people forget when everything around them starts to collapse. They panic, they overthink, and they lose themselves in fear. But here's the question you need to ask yourself right now. When life feels out of control, will you break under the weight, or will you learn how to hold steady? Calm is not about pretending everything is fine. It's about building the strength to face reality without letting it destroy your peace. In your hardest days, calm becomes the tool that helps you breathe, think clearly, and take the next right step. Without it, you spiral. With it, you rebuild. This video is not theory, it's a guide you can use today. I'll give you clear, practical ways to stay calm when life falls apart, so you rise again stronger, wiser, and more in control than ever before. Chapter 1. Calm your breath when everything feels out of control. When life falls apart, the first thing that usually slips away from you is your sense of control. Your mind races, your heart pounds, your hands shake, and your body feels like it's carrying the weight of everything at once. In that moment, calm feels far away, almost impossible. But here's the truth. Your breath is the one thing you can control, even when everything else feels out of your hands. If you learn to calm your breath when life feels out of control, you take back the first piece of power you need to rebuild yourself. Think about how your body reacts when you are under heavy stress. Your breathing becomes fast and shallow. You feel like you are gasping rather than breathing. That only feeds your panic. Your brain gets the signal that you are in danger, even if there is no immediate threat in front of you. The more shallow your breath becomes, the louder that danger alarm rings in your head. Now, if you continue in that state, you won't think clearly, you won't see solutions, and you won't make the decisions you need to make. You will drown in noise. But when you stop and bring your breathing under control, everything begins to change. You slow down the alarm system inside your body. You tell your brain, "I am safe right now." And when your brain believes that, you create space to think. That space is what separates the person who breaks under stress from the person who grows stronger in it. Breathing is not just an automatic function. It is a tool, a strategy, and a discipline. You can use it to anchor yourself in the most difficult of times. When life feels like it's falling apart, whether it's losing a job, facing rejection, dealing with family issues, or struggling financially, you can't control every event, but you can control the way you respond. Your first response must be to calm your breath. That's where you start. Here is something to practice. Take a slow, deep breath in through your nose. Hold it gently for a moment, then release it slowly through your mouth. Do it again, but this time notice what happens in your body. Notice how your shoulders loosen. Notice how your chest doesn't feel as heavy. Notice how your thoughts begin to slow down. That is proof. You cannot always change the chaos outside, but you can always begin by calming the storm inside. And that storm begins with your breathing. Most people underestimate this because it sounds simple. They want a bigger answer, something dramatic. But what they don't realize is that the small practices shape the bigger outcomes. The person who learns to master their breath masters their state of mind, and the person who masters their state of mind is ready to take on life, no matter how messy it gets. Think about how often people react out of panic and make their situation worse. They send a message they regret, they yell at someone they love, they give up on a project they should have finished, or they drown themselves in habits that break them down further. All of this happens because they couldn't pause and breathe. They didn't give themselves the chance to regain balance. If you can control your breath, you avoid those self-destructive reactions. You stay present enough to choose a better response. Breathing is also the fastest way to ground yourself in the present. When your mind is running wild with thoughts about what went wrong yesterday and what might go wrong tomorrow, your breath brings you back to now. And it's only in the now that you can act. You can't rewrite the past, and you can't live tomorrow today. But you can breathe today. You can take action today. You can hold yourself steady today. When you are in pain, your mind tells you the pain will last forever. When you are in chaos, your mind convinces you there is no way out. But when you breathe, you cut the link between that fear and your body. You remind yourself that while the storm might be strong, you are not powerless. That is the foundation of calm. Now, let's go deeper into why breath has such power. When your breathing slows, it affects your nervous system. Your heart rate comes down, your muscles loosen, your stress hormones begin to drop. And when that happens, you shift from a reactive state to a thoughtful state. You start seeing clearly again. The fog lifts. That's when you realize that the problem may not be as impossible as your panic told you. This practice is not something you do once. It's something you train into your daily life. Start every morning with a few deep breaths before you face the world. Use it during the day when tension builds. Practice it at night when your thoughts are restless. Make breathing your signal that you are in control, even when life is not. Calming your breath is not about ignoring reality. It's not about pretending that things are fine. It's about preparing yourself to face reality without collapsing under it. It's about staying steady enough to make the right moves, even when the ground feels shaky. Imagine someone who just received news that changes their life in a painful way. Maybe they lost someone they love. Maybe they lost their job. Maybe they faced betrayal. In that moment, everything inside of them wants to explode. If they follow that urge, they might make decisions that bring even more damage. But if they pause, close their eyes, and breathe slowly, they create a pause between the pain and the reaction. In that pause, they give themselves the gift of self-control. That pause is the difference between regret and wisdom. When you learn this, you begin to trust yourself more. You know that even when things fall apart, you won't fall apart with them. You can stand. You can breathe. You can think. That trust is powerful. It makes you unshakable, not because life is easy, but because you are prepared. This discipline also carries over into every other part of your life. The way you handle stress at work, the way you respond to conflict in relationships, the way you recover from failure, all of it improves when you learn to use your breath as a tool. You don't collapse into fear. You don't waste time on panic. You step into calm, and calm gives you clarity. Calm breathing also teaches patience. When you slow your breath, you slow your thinking. You give yourself time to gather the facts, to choose your next step wisely. Without this patience, you rush into actions that later become regrets. Patience is not doing nothing. It's preparing yourself to do the right thing. This practice is not about perfection. You won't always remember it right away. There will be moments when panic takes over before you catch yourself. That's fine. Growth is not about being flawless. It's about being aware. Every time you remember to breathe, you strengthen your ability to face the storm. Over time, it becomes natural. Your body learns that your first reaction to stress is calm, not chaos. Start with a commitment. Each time you feel stress rising, say to yourself, "First, I breathe." Train this into your daily life. Make it automatic. With enough practice, you will reach the point where no matter what happens, your breath is your anchor. You'll be calm not because life is easy, but because you've trained yourself to be steady. Calming your breath when life feels out of control is not just a skill, it's a foundation. Without it, everything else you try will collapse under pressure. With it, you create a platform to build strength, clarity, and resilience. You become the kind of person who can face loss, failure, rejection, or change, and still stand firm. In the end, life will always bring moments where things fall apart. That's the nature of being alive. but how you face those moments determines whether you stay broken or grow stronger. And the first step is always the same. Breathe deeply, breathe slowly, breathe with purpose. Because in your breath lies the calm you need to rebuild everything else. Chapter 2. Focus only on what you can manage today. When life feels like it's collapsing around you, the weight of everything at once is what crushes most people. They see every problem together, they carry every fear into today, and they allow every uncertainty to pile up in their head until they feel paralyzed. But the truth is this: you cannot manage tomorrow today, and you cannot control yesterday anymore. You only ever have this day, this set of hours, this moment. And if you want to stay calm when life falls apart, you must train yourself to focus only on what you can manage today. That is where your strength begins. When you wake up in the morning after a rough night, your mind often tries to convince you to solve every single thing right now. It tells you to fix the financial problem, repair the broken relationship, handle the health scare, and redesign your future all before noon. That's impossible. No person has the power to resolve years of difficulty in a single day. And when you try, you drown yourself in pressure. You're not failing because you're weak. You're failing because you're trying to carry 10 days at once. The human mind is not designed for that. The human mind is designed to face what is in front of it. Think of the simple truth of living. You can eat only one meal at a time. You can walk only one step at a time. You can speak only one sentence at a time. Yet, when problems strike, people forget this truth and try to live 10 lives in one day. That's why they break. The way forward is to break life down to what is manageable right now. So how do you practice this? You start by identifying what belongs to today and what does not. Today might require you to make a phone call. Today might require you to pay one bill. Today might require you to show up at work and give your best effort. That is today. Tomorrow's concerns are not yours yet. Yesterday's mistakes are finished. If you want to stay calm, stop dragging what doesn't belong into your day. Carry only what is yours now. This is not just an idea, it is a strategy for survival. Imagine someone who has lost their job. If they wake up and try to solve unemployment, career direction, bills, self-worth, and long-term stability all before breakfast, they will sink. But if they wake up and say, "Today, I will update my resume. Today, I will make 3 phone calls. Today, I will apply to 2 jobs." Suddenly the load is lighter. It is no longer overwhelming. Progress begins to appear. They don't have to solve everything, they only have to manage today. The same is true for grief. When someone loses a loved one, the pain of imagining a lifetime without that person is unbearable. That's why people spiral into despair. But if instead they say, "Today, I will get out of bed. Today, I will prepare one meal. Today, I will allow myself to cry and rest," that is manageable. They can endure today. And by enduring today, they find themselves able to face tomorrow when it arrives. Your calm comes from narrowing your focus. Too many people try to live in 10 directions at once. You can't calm a storm that way. But when you narrow it down to what you can do today, the noise drops. Your mind finds clarity. And clarity is what gives you calm. There is also a psychological reason this works. When your mind believes it has too much to handle, it freezes. It's called decision fatigue. The more your brain believes it must decide and fix everything at once, the less energy it has to actually act. By shrinking your focus to what is manageable today, you give your brain a clear target. Instead of being stuck in fear, you move into action, and action creates calm. Every morning, make it a discipline to ask yourself one question: what can I manage today? Write it down if you need to. Keep the list short. If you fill it with 20 items, you will lose the very calm you're trying to create. 3 or 4 real actions are enough. These actions should not be about solving everything, but about doing what is possible now. When you complete them, you will feel progress, and progress, no matter how small, rebuilds confidence. It's easy to underestimate small actions when life is hard. People want big solutions. They want their problems gone overnight. But problems don't vanish overnight. They are handled step by step. Calm comes from allowing yourself to move one step at a time. If you practice this, you stop fighting the impossible and start focusing on what is possible. Another part of focusing only on what you can manage today is learning to say no to extra burdens. When you're already carrying pain or stress, don't add unnecessary weight. Protect your energy. If someone tries to pull you into their chaos, remind yourself that you cannot manage their today and your today at the same time. You have to choose. Calm is protected by boundaries. You also have to be honest about what is within your control and what is not. People waste huge amounts of energy trying to control other people's behavior. You cannot control whether someone apologizes. You cannot control whether someone understands you. You cannot control every twist of circumstance, but you can control your attitude, your choices, and your actions today. Focus there. Energy spent on what you cannot control is energy stolen from what you can, and when your energy is scattered like that, calm disappears. There will be times when today itself feels heavy. You may have more than one urgent issue demanding your attention. This is when prioritization becomes essential. Ask yourself, if I could only do one thing today, what would matter most? Do that. Once it is done, move to the next. Calm is not about doing everything at once. It's about doing the right things one at a time. Focusing only on what you can manage today also builds resilience. Each time you practice it, you prove to yourself that you can face life as it comes. You don't crumble because you're not looking at the weight of the next year, you're looking only at the weight of today. And today is always manageable if you break it down. Think about how you eat a meal. You don't take the whole plate at once, you take bites. That's the way life works under stress. Break it down into pieces you can handle today. If you want calm, refuse to swallow the whole plate at once. Another reason this principle matters is because it keeps you present. Anxiety often lives in the future. Regret lives in the past. Calm lives in the present. By focusing on what you can manage today, you pull yourself out of regret and fear and bring yourself into the only place where you have power, the now. This doesn't mean you stop planning. Planning is wise. But worry is not. Planning is looking ahead with clarity. Worry is dragging the future into today and crushing yourself under it. Learn the difference. Plan when you need to, then return your mind to today. If you stay here, calm follows. Here is a simple practice. At the end of the day, reflect on what you managed. Don't punish yourself for what remains. Recognize the actions you took. This builds a sense of accomplishment, and that accomplishment builds inner strength. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but tonight you can rest knowing you managed today. That rest restores calm. The reason many people lose hope is because they believe they must carry the whole journey at once. They see 10 years of struggle and say, I can't make it. And they are right. They can't make 10 years in a day. But they can make today. And if they make today, then tomorrow they can make tomorrow. Over time, this builds an unshakable resilience. When everything feels broken, don't let your focus break too. Narrow it, shrink it, guard it. Tell yourself, I will carry only today. When you live this way, the impossible begins to look possible. You won't solve everything overnight, but you will stay calm, and that calm will give you the strength to rebuild piece by piece. So when life falls apart and your mind wants to drag you into panic, remind yourself of this truth. You don't have to carry it all. You only have to carry today. And if you carry today well, you are already on your way to carrying tomorrow.
Chapter 3. Release thoughts that make your mind more chaotic. When life falls apart, your biggest enemy often isn't the event itself, but the thoughts that follow it. The situation may be painful, but the endless loop of thoughts you allow into your mind multiplies the pain. A problem may be real, but the way you think about it can turn it into a monster that steals your sleep, drains your energy, and leaves you unable to act. That's why one of the most important disciplines you can build is learning to release the thoughts that make your mind more chaotic. You know what it feels like. You sit down to rest, but your mind refuses to stop. One thought appears, and it calls another. Soon, you're drowning in imagined scenarios. You think about what could go wrong. You replay what already went wrong, and you create stories in your head that may never even happen. This is the cycle of chaos in the mind. It's exhausting, and if you don't break it, it steals the chance to recover. Releasing these thoughts doesn't mean denying reality. It means refusing to give unnecessary power to the kind of thinking that destroys your calm. You can acknowledge that a problem exists without letting your mind replay it hundreds of times. You can recognize fear without feeding it. You can see uncertainty without allowing it to control every minute of your day. That is the practice, seeing the thought, recognizing its impact, and choosing to release it before it builds into chaos. The first step is awareness. You can't release what you don't notice. Most people let their thoughts run wild without even realizing it. They confuse having a thought with needing to believe it. But every thought that passes through your mind doesn't deserve a place in your life. Some thoughts help you plan, solve, and grow. Others serve only to drain you. You have to develop the discipline of catching yourself in the middle of destructive thinking. Ask yourself, is this thought useful, or is it just noise? If it's noise, it has to go. Once you've noticed the thought, the second step is to detach from it. Too often, people say, "That's just who I am, I'm an overthinker." But overthinking is not who you are. It's a habit, and habits can be changed. A thought is not you. It is something your mind produces, but you have the ability to step back and observe it instead of being ruled by it. When you observe it, you create distance, and in that distance you gain control. The third step is to redirect. You can't simply say, "I won't think about this," and expect your mind to go silent. If you want to release a thought, you must replace it with something else. That could mean focusing on a small task in front of you, repeating a calming phrase, or bringing your attention to your breath. The human brain can focus only on one main thought at a time. If you fill that space with something steady, the chaos has less room to grow. It's also important to recognize patterns. Certain triggers will always spark chaotic thoughts for you. Maybe it's money, maybe it's relationships, maybe it's self-doubt. Notice the triggers. Once you know them, you can prepare yourself. Instead of being caught off guard, you will be ready to release those thoughts the moment they show up. Preparation builds confidence, and confidence reduces chaos. Another practice is writing down what troubles you. When you carry thoughts in your mind, they spin endlessly. But when you write them down, you take them out of your head and place them on paper. This act alone can release their hold on you. You may look at what you wrote and realize some of it isn't as big as it felt, or you may see patterns you hadn't noticed before. Either way, writing transforms vague chaos into something concrete, and concrete things can be handled. One of the strongest reasons to release chaotic thoughts is because they distort reality. They exaggerate problems, minimize your strengths, and create fear out of possibilities that haven't even occurred. If you live by those distorted thoughts, you make decisions that don't reflect the truth. You may give up too early, lash out at the wrong person, or miss opportunities because you're consumed by imaginary fears. Releasing those thoughts gives you a clearer view of reality, and clarity always leads to better choices. Another trap to avoid is believing that thinking more will always solve the problem. It doesn't. Reflection is useful, but overthinking is destructive. Reflection helps you learn and plan. Overthinking makes you The difference is simple. Reflection leads to action. Overthinking leads to paralysis. You have to train yourself to stop once you notice you're no longer planning, but simply spiraling. Stop, release, and return your focus to what matters. There are practical ways to release chaotic thoughts. You can take a walk and use the rhythm of your steps to reset your mind. You can do a short breathing exercise that pulls you back into the present. You can speak out loud. This thought is not useful to me. You can even create a routine that signals your brain to let go, like listening to calming music or focusing on one positive statement. Each practice is like a signal to your mind. It's time to release. You may also need to evaluate the sources feeding your thought. If you spend hours consuming negative news, toxic conversations, or content that fuels fear, your mind will naturally become more chaotic. Protect your input. Choose carefully what you allow in, because what you allow in becomes what you think about. If you want to calm your mind, guard it from sources that only create more chaos. Releasing chaotic thoughts also requires self-compassion. Too many people punish themselves for thinking too much. They get angry at themselves for being anxious. That only adds another layer of chaos. Instead, acknowledge it gently. Say, I am human, and my mind is active. But I do not have to hold every thought. That kindness to yourself creates the calm you need to release more easily. Another part of this discipline is setting time limit. If you must think about a problem, give yourself a clear time frame. Tell yourself, I will think about this for 20 minutes, then I will release it. When the time ends, redirect your focus. This trains your brain to recognize that thinking is not endless. There is a start and an end. Without limits, your mind will replay the same worry for hours without progress. With limits, you regain control. You must also remember that releasing doesn't mean ignoring. Sometimes people confuse the two. Ignoring means you deny the problem. You pretend it doesn't exist. Releasing means you acknowledge it but choose not to let it dominate your mental space beyond what's necessary. It's the difference between owning your problem and being owned by it. In the long run, the ability to release thoughts that create chaos is what allows you to live with resilience. Life will always bring uncertainty. Situations will often be outside your control. But if your mind becomes chaotic every time, you'll never build stability. Calm doesn't come from a perfect life. Calm comes from a trained mind. And training begins with releasing what does not serve you. When you start living this way, you'll notice the difference in how you carry yourself. You'll have more patience in difficult conversations. You'll sleep better at night. You'll be able to focus on real solutions instead of drowning in imagined ones. People around you will sense your steadiness, and most importantly, you will trust yourself more, because you know you can handle stress without losing yourself in it. So when you feel your mind filling with noise, remind yourself that not every thought deserves your attention. Notice the thought, acknowledge it, and then choose to let it pass. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who decides which thoughts stay and which ones go. That decision is your power, and in that power lies your calm. In times when everything falls apart, remember this discipline. You cannot always change the situation, but you can change the way your mind reacts to it. If you release the thoughts that add chaos, you will uncover the clarity you need to move forward, and that clarity will help you rebuild piece by piece. Calm does not mean the absence of difficulty. Calm means you no longer let unnecessary thoughts destroy your strength. And that is how you rise above the chaos, even when life feels broken.
Chapter 4. Build a steady routine to feel safe inside. When life begins to fall apart,
Uncertainty becomes the greatest source of stress. You don't know what will happen next. You don't know how long the difficulty will last, and you don't know what you'll be forced to face tomorrow. That uncertainty shakes your sense of security, and when a person doesn't feel secure, calm disappears. But there is something you can build for yourself even in the middle of turmoil: a steady routine. A routine is not about controlling the world outside. It is about giving yourself stability inside. When everything else is unpredictable, you create a pattern you can count on, and that simple pattern helps you feel safe. Human beings function best with structure. Without it, the mind drifts, the body weakens, and emotions spiral. Think about the difference between waking up with no plan and waking up with a clear set of actions. In the first case, your mind is restless before the day even begins. You feel like you're chasing everything, scattered and reactive. In the second case, you know what to do first, you know what comes next, and that certainty gives you calm. The situation outside may still be hard, but inside you're steady. That is the power of routine. Building a steady routine doesn't mean filling every minute of your day with tasks. It means choosing specific habits that bring you order and repeating them consistently. These habits anchor you when chaos threatens to pull you apart. They tell your mind and body, there is stability here, there is something I can rely on. That feeling of reliability becomes your inner safety. Start with your mornings. The way you begin the day sets the tone for everything else. If you start in panic, you carry panic. If you start in order, you carry order. Create a morning routine that grounds you. It could be as simple as waking up at the same time, drinking a glass of water, sitting in silence for a few minutes, and writing down your top 3 priorities. These may seem small, but they signal to your mind that you are in control of how the day begins. That control is what restores calm. Your routine should also include movement. The body and the mind are not separate. When you move your body, you release tension stored inside you. A short walk, stretching, or any form of exercise tells your body that you are not frozen in fear. You are active, alive, and engaged. This movement then feeds back into your mind, reducing stress and bringing clarity. You don't need a complicated workout plan, just enough movement to remind yourself that you are still strong and capable. Another essential part of routine is sleep. When chaos enters life, sleep is often the first thing to break. People stay up too late worrying, or they wake up throughout the night. Lack of sleep makes the mind even more chaotic. That's why protecting your rest is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Choose a consistent time to go to bed. Avoid filling your mind with noise right before sleep, and give your body the chance to restore itself. The steadiness of sleep is one of the most powerful ways to create safety inside. Eating is also part of this equation. When you're stressed, you may forget to eat, or you may eat too much of what harms you. Neither supports calm. Building a simple routine around meals, eating at regular times, choosing foods that nourish your body, gives your system stability. Your body then responds with more energy, and that energy feeds your mind. Work and responsibilities also become lighter when placed into a routine. Instead of reacting to everything as it comes, block time for what matters most. Decide when you will focus, when you will rest, and when you will connect with others. This gives your day rhythm, and rhythm creates balance. Without rhythm, every demand feels urgent, and urgency destroys calm. With rhythm, you know when things will be handled, and that knowledge allows you to breathe. One of the most overlooked benefits of routine is that it reduces decision fatigue. Every time you face a choice, your brain spends energy. In times of chaos, energy is already scarce. A routine takes many decisions off the table. If you always wake up at the same time, you don't debate when to get up. If you always prepare a meal at a certain hour, you don't debate when or what to eat. By reducing decisions, You conserve energy for the things that truly need your focus. That conservation is what allows you to stay calm. Routine also builds discipline. Discipline is not about harsh rules. It is about consistency that strengthens you. When you keep showing up for your routine, you prove to yourself that even when life is unstable, you are not. That proof builds confidence, and confidence is another name for inner safety. You trust yourself more because you see that you don't collapse under pressure. You keep moving, one consistent step at a time. It's important to design a routine that is realistic. If you try to create something complicated, you will break it quickly, and then you'll feel more defeated. Keep it simple. Choose a few actions that matter most to your calm, and repeat them daily. The repetition is more valuable than the complexity. Over time, these simple actions build incredible strength. You also need flexibility inside your routine. Life will interrupt. Some days will not go as planned. That's normal. Flexibility means you don't punish yourself when the routine shifts. You simply return to it at the next opportunity. The safety comes not from perfection, but from consistency. Missing once does not break you. Returning again and again is what makes the routine steady. Connection can also be part of your routine. If there are people who encourage and support you, schedule regular time to speak with them. Even a short call or a few minutes together can remind you that you are not alone. Loneliness feeds chaos, while connection builds safety. When you know you'll have that contact, you carry less fear. Spiritual practices or moments of reflection can also provide stability. Whether it's prayer, meditation, journaling, or quiet thinking, set aside a time in your day to step outside of the noise and remember what matters most. These moments remind you that your life is not just your problems, it's bigger. That perspective gives you the strength to endure challenges without being crushed by them. The routine you build should feel like a home you carry with you. No matter where you go, no matter what happens, you have a familiar structure that supports you. That is why people who create routines recover faster from setbacks. They don't collapse into chaos because they have trained themselves to return to order. Their inner world is not at the mercy of the outer world. One more reason a routine creates safety is because it builds momentum. When you repeat positive actions daily, even small ones, they add up. You begin to see progress. You begin to feel capable. And progress, no matter how small, restores hope. Hope is the foundation of calm, and calm is the foundation of rebuilding. Without a routine, you wait for life to change before you feel safe. With a routine, you create safety while life is still difficult. So ask yourself, what small daily actions can you repeat? What can you commit to every morning, every evening, or every week that will bring you steadiness? Write them down. Start simple. Begin practicing. With time, these actions become automatic, and when they are automatic, they become your foundation. Life will never promise stability. There will always be change, loss, and surprise, but you can promise yourself steadiness. You can create a pattern of living that keeps you grounded no matter what comes. Build that routine, repeat it faithfully, and watch how your sense of safety grows from the inside out. Because when the outside world feels unpredictable, the greatest gift you can give yourself is an inner world that is steady, reliable, and strong. And that is exactly what a routine provides.
Chapter 5. Face problems slowly instead of avoiding them completely. When life falls apart, the temptation to avoid your problems can be overwhelming. You feel drained, you feel afraid, and you tell yourself that maybe if you ignore the issue long enough, it will disappear. But problems rarely vanish on their own. They grow bigger, they spread into other areas of your life, and they return stronger than before. Avoidance only multiplies your stress. The way forward is not to run, but also not to rush. It's to face your problems slowly, steadily, step by step, in a way that builds strength instead of breaking you. Facing problems slowly is not weakness, it's wisdom. When you try to solve everything at once, you overwhelm yourself and often make mistakes.
When you avoid the problem, you create a false sense of relief that doesn't last. But when you pace yourself and face the issue in parts, you stay calm, you keep your clarity, and you make real progress. Imagine carrying a heavy load. If you try to lift it all at once, you might hurt yourself. If you refuse to touch it, the weight never leaves. But if you break it into smaller pieces and carry them one by one, the load becomes manageable. That is the strategy for life's problems. Not denial, not panic, but steady progress. Think about the kind of problems that often shake people: debt, broken relationships, health struggles, or career setbacks. None of these can be fixed in a single day, but each of them can be faced slowly. If you owe money, you won't erase it overnight, but you can make one payment, create one plan, have one conversation with a creditor. If you've hurt someone, you may not rebuild trust immediately, but you can apologize, take responsibility, and prove your change through actions over time. If your health is declining, you won't become strong in a week, but you can start by walking today, choosing a healthier meal, or scheduling a checkup. Each of these small steps moves you closer to resolution without overwhelming you. The key is to recognize that problems are not solved by speed, they are solved by steady attention. Now, why do people avoid problems? One reason is fear of discomfort. Facing issues forces you to confront pain, guilt, or uncertainty, and the mind wants to escape that. But running away doesn't remove the discomfort, it stretches it out. When you avoid, the anxiety lingers in the background. When you face it, even slowly, you shorten the time you live under its shadow. Another reason people avoid problems is pride. They don't want to admit they've made mistakes, but facing problems slowly allows you to humble yourself without collapsing. You acknowledge the issue piece by piece instead of being crushed all at once. Another obstacle is the belief that if you can't do everything, there's no point in doing anything. That mindset is dangerous. Progress is not all or nothing. It's built through consistent small steps. Facing your problems slowly trains you to value progress, not perfection. Each step is proof that you are moving forward, and that proof builds confidence. When you start to face problems slowly, you regain power over your life. Avoidance steals that power because it leaves you reacting to fear. Facing your problems, even in small actions, returns the control to you. You begin to trust yourself again. You say, I may not fix this all today, but I am not running. I am facing it. That statement alone changes the way you feel about your situation. There's also a psychological shift that happens when you face problems steadily. The mind exaggerates problems when you avoid them. Something small becomes terrifying in your imagination. But when you turn and face it, you see it for what it really is. Difficult. Yes, but not impossible. By breaking the problem into parts, you strip away the illusion that it's bigger than you. Here's a practical approach. Start by naming the problem clearly. Most people avoid even saying it out loud. But clarity brings relief. Once it's named, write down what parts of it can be handled now and what must wait. Then commit to one small action today. Not 10, not 20, just one. After that action is complete, recognize it as progress. Over time, those small actions accumulate, and the problem that once looked unmovable begins to shift. Facing problems slowly also builds resilience for the future. Every time you choose to face instead of avoid, you train your mind to handle stress better. The next time life falls apart, you'll remember, I know how to handle this. I'll take it step by step. That memory of past success will calm you even in new storms. There's another reason this matters. When you avoid problems, you lose respect for yourself. Deep down, you know you're running, and that eats away at your self-image. But when you face problems, even in small actions, you rebuild self-respect. You prove to yourself that you are capable of handling difficulty. That self-respect fuels your confidence, and confidence makes you stronger. Facing problems slowly also prevents you from hurting others in the process. When you avoid, the stress leaks out. You become short-tempered, distracted, or withdrawn, and those around you feel the effects. But when you confront the issue gradually, you reduce that spillover. You keep more of your calm, and you protect your relationships from unnecessary damage. Some problems are complex and may require outside help. Facing them slowly doesn't mean doing it alone. It means admitting when you need guidance and being willing to take the first step toward it. That could be speaking to a mentor, meeting with a counselor, or asking a trusted friend for support. Seeking help is part of facing, not avoiding. And when you take that step, you release the false belief that you must carry everything by yourself. There's also value in measuring your progress as you go. Keep track of the small actions you've taken. When the problem feels heavy again, look back at what you've already faced. That record reminds you that even though the issue is not resolved yet, you are moving, and movement is what matters. Standing still in avoidance breaks you. Moving forward slowly heals you. It's also important to be patient with yourself. Facing problems slowly means you will stumble at times. You might take one step forward and then pause for a while. That's natural. Don't mistake pauses for failure. What matters is that you are still facing the problem, not running from it. With patience, the momentum always returns. Consider the alternative. A person avoids their financial issues for years. The debt piles higher, the stress grows, and eventually the problem explodes. Another person faces it slowly, budgeting, making payments, learning new skills. Over time, their situation improves, and their mind grows calmer. The difference between these two people is not intelligence, it's the choice to face or avoid. The same is true in relationships. Someone avoids difficult conversations, letting resentment build until the bond breaks. Another faces issues one discussion at a time, even when it's uncomfortable. Over time, they build deeper trust. Once again, the difference lies in the choice to face slowly instead of avoiding completely. When you face problems slowly, you give yourself dignity. You may not have all the answers, but you are not hiding. You are showing up for your own life. That choice alone puts you ahead of the majority who let fear rule them. Dignity grows when you face reality, and dignity strengthens your calm. So each time life throws a problem at you, resist the urge to escape. Resist the urge to fix it all in one night. Choose the middle path, steady facing. Write it down. Break it down. Take one action, and then take another tomorrow. Over time, you'll look back and realize the problem that once looked unbearable has already begun to fade. Life doesn't reward avoidance. Life rewards courage. And courage is not about doing everything at once. It's about doing something today, something tomorrow, and continuing until the problem is behind you. That is how you build calm. That is how you build strength. And that is how you rise when life falls apart.
Chapter 6. Write down your pain to clear your mental space. When pain builds inside you, it has a way of filling every corner of your mind. You try to go about your day, but the thoughts return again and again. You try to sleep, but the weight of those feelings keeps you awake. Pain that stays trapped in your head becomes heavier, louder, and more destructive. The longer you hold it in, the less room you have for clarity, focus, or peace. That is why one of the most powerful tools for calm is to write down your pain. Putting your emotions onto paper gives your mind space to breathe.
It takes what feels endless and gives it shape. It turns confusion into words you can see, and that act alone begins to lighten the load. Writing is not about creating something perfect. It's not about spelling, grammar, or style. It's about release. When you write down your pain, you allow yourself to stop carrying it entirely inside. The page becomes a container. Instead of replaying the same thoughts over and over, you give them a place to rest outside your head. You see the problem from a different angle. Sometimes what looked overwhelming in your mind looks less threatening once you see it written. Other times, writing helps you discover truths you weren't fully aware of until you saw them in front of you. Think about the way the human mind works. It constantly replays unfinished business. If something hurts and you don't process it, your mind keeps bringing it back, trying to make sense of it. That cycle drains energy. Writing interrupts that cycle. It signals to your brain, this has been expressed. It doesn't need to stay on repeat anymore. In that moment, mental space opens up. You haven't erased the pain, but you've cleared the noise surrounding it. There's a calming effect that comes with seeing emotions in black and white. Words on a page are solid. They don't move as fast as racing thoughts. By slowing them down into sentences, you slow yourself down. You stop the endless spinning in your mind and replace it with a steady process. You are in charge again, not the chaos. That control is part of why this practice works. It's also important to understand that writing is a private act. You don't have to share it with anyone. The point is not to impress or prove. The point is honesty with yourself. Some people hesitate to write because they fear what others might think if they read it. But remember, this is for you. You can destroy the pages afterward if you want. The value is in the release, not in the record. When you begin, don't filter. Let yourself pour onto the page whatever you feel. Anger, sadness, guilt, confusion, fear. The page doesn't judge. It doesn't interrupt. It doesn't argue. It receives everything you need to say. That silence gives you the freedom to be raw in a way you may not feel comfortable expressing to others. And often, that rawness is what sets you free. Sometimes when you start writing, you discover emotions you didn't realize were there. A simple sentence like, "I feel tired of pretending I'm okay," might open a door to deeper truth. Writing pulls hidden thoughts out of the shadows. Once they're in the light, you can deal with them. Left inside, they grow stronger. On paper, they lose their power to hide. Another benefit of writing is perspective. When pain lives only in your mind, it feels endless and undefined. But when you write it, you create boundaries around it. You see where it starts and where it ends. That separation allows you to step back and view your experience from a distance. With distance comes clarity. You begin to recognize patterns. You see what triggers certain feelings. You notice how often certain themes repeat. With this knowledge, you can begin to make better decisions about how to respond. Writing can also help you measure progress. If you keep a journal, you can look back weeks or months later and see how far you've come. In moments when you feel stuck, those old entries remind you that you've already grown, already survived, already faced struggles that felt impossible at the time. That reminder strengthens your belief that you can handle what you're going through now. For many people, writing also becomes a safe place to practice acceptance. You don't need to fix everything on the page. You don't need to find solutions immediately. Sometimes the act of admitting "this hurts and I don't know what to do" is enough to calm you. Acceptance is powerful because it reduces the fight inside your head. When you stop resisting the existence of pain and simply write it down, you stop battling yourself. That ending of inner conflict creates space for peace. Some people use writing to speak directly to themselves. They write encouraging words, reminders of their strength, or affirmations of their values. This is not pretending everything is fine. It's reinforcing that even in pain, you are still capable, worthy, and resilient. Writing these reminders makes them more real. Your mind may forget them in chaos, but your page keeps them safe. Other times you might write letters to people you can't talk to directly. Maybe you've lost someone and need to express your grief. Maybe you're hurt by someone, but don't feel ready to confront them. Writing a letter you never send allows you to express the feelings without carrying them inside forever. Even if no one else reads it, you release the weight. There's also a physical element to this practice. The act of holding a pen, pressing it to paper, and forming words with your hand engages your body. It's different from thinking silently. That physical engagement helps you process in a deeper way. It slows you down, connects your body to your mind, and grounds you in the present moment. Writing down your pain doesn't solve the problem instantly, but it clears the clutter so you can think more clearly about solutions. If your mind is crowded with noise, you can't see the next step. Once the noise is out, you can prioritize, plan, or simply rest without being consumed. Calm doesn't come from ignoring pain, it comes from releasing what you don't need to carry in your head anymore. Another reason this practice works is because it builds self-awareness. Many people live disconnected from their emotions. They feel stress or sadness, but can't explain why. Writing forces you to name what you feel. Naming gives you power. When you can say, "I feel anxious because of this," you separate the emotion from yourself. It no longer controls you. Instead, you are observing it, and observers have power. Over time, writing can become a ritual that signals your brain to let go. Each time you sit with your notebook, your mind learns. This is the place where I unload. That conditioning makes it easier to release the next time. It's like training your brain to know that it doesn't have to hold on to everything. There is a place where those burdens can rest. You don't need hours every day for this. Even 10 minutes can change how you feel. The value is not in the length, but in the consistency. The more often you write, the more natural it becomes to release instead of holding on. Some people worry that writing about their pain will make them feel worse. In truth, it may feel heavy at first, because you're confronting what you've avoided, but the heaviness passes, and what remains is relief. The page absorbs what your mind no longer has to carry. And once you experience that relief, you'll understand why this practice is so powerful. Your calm depends on making space inside yourself. Chaos takes up space. Painful thoughts, when unspoken, fill the mind. Writing empties that space. It makes room for clearer thinking, for healthier emotions, and for the strength to rebuild. Without that clearing, you are stuck in mental clutter. With it, you create an environment where healing is possible. So when the pressure feels unbearable, don't just keep everything locked inside. Pick up a pen, write without judgment. Let the page hold what you no longer can. With each word, you lighten the weight. With each sentence, you clear a little more space. And with that space comes calm. In the end, the act of writing is not about creating something beautiful. It's about creating freedom. Freedom from mental chaos, freedom from endless loops of thought, freedom from carrying more than you can hold. And once you experience that freedom, you'll return to it again and again, not because it solves everything instantly, but because it gives you the clarity and strength you need to move forward.
Chapter 7. Pause your reactions when emotions rise too quickly. One of the hardest moments in life is when emotions rush in and take over before you've had the chance to think. You've felt it before. The sudden anger when someone disrespects you, the sharp fear when bad news arrives, the overwhelming sadness when a memory surfaces unexpectedly. Those emotions rise so fast that you feel like you have no control. Most people react instantly, saying or doing things that only make the situation worse. The regret that follows is often heavier than the original problem.
That's why learning to pause your reactions when emotions rise too quickly is one of the most important disciplines you can build if you want to stay calm when life feels like it's falling apart. A pause may only last a few seconds, but in those few seconds you give yourself something priceless: choice. Without the pause, your emotions drive the car. With the pause, you take the wheel back. That difference determines whether you damage your relationships, destroy opportunities, or create a path toward healing and clarity. The truth about emotions is that they are not the enemy. They are signals. Anger signals a boundary being crossed. Fear signals danger or uncertainty. Sadness signals loss or disappointment. But just because they signal something doesn't mean they should control your actions. The pause allows you to listen to the signal without being trapped by it. You hear the alarm without burning down the whole house in response. When emotions rise, your body reacts before your mind has a chance to process. Your heart beats faster, your breathing changes, your muscles tense, and your thoughts speed up. In that state, your ability to think clearly is reduced. You're more likely to lash out, withdraw completely, or make decisions you later regret. The pause interrupts this automatic chain reaction. It slows your body, gives your mind space, and allows reason to join the conversation. The discipline of pausing starts with awareness. You have to notice when emotions are spiking. Pay attention to the signals, the tightening in your chest, the clenching of your fists, the rising heat in your face. These are early warnings that you are about to react. The moment you notice them, stop. Even a few seconds of stopping can prevent a lifetime of regret. During that pause, do something simple but powerful. Breathe. A slow breath is often enough to reset your body and give you control again. That breath buys you time, and in that time, you can ask yourself one crucial question: what response here will serve me best? The answer to that question almost always leads to a better outcome than the first reaction that wanted to escape. Pausing doesn't mean suppressing your emotion. Suppression pushes feelings down, where they build pressure until they explode later. Pausing means acknowledging the emotion. I feel angry. I feel afraid. I feel sad, but refusing to let it dictate your next move. That acknowledgement brings honesty, and honesty reduces the power of the emotion. It no longer hides in your body. It's recognized and managed. Think about the arguments you've witnessed, or maybe the ones you've had yourself. How many of those would have ended differently if just one person had paused before speaking? A pause could have stopped harsh words from being said. A pause could have prevented doors from being slammed or phones from being hung up. A pause could have kept the discussion productive instead of destructive. The lack of a pause often ruins relationships, while the presence of a pause can preserve them. The same is true at work. Many careers have been damaged because someone sent an email in anger or made a decision in panic. If they had paused for even a few moments, the clarity to act wisely would have returned. People who pause build reputations for steadiness and maturity. They become trusted because others know they won't overreact. That trust creates opportunities. Pausing also changes the way you see yourself. When you learn to stop and think, you begin to trust your own self-control. You don't fear your emotions as much because you know they won't run away with your life. That trust strengthens your confidence. You're not afraid of difficult conversations or stressful moments because you've trained yourself to pause and respond with calm. This practice also protects your health. Reacting in anger or panic sends your body into constant stress. Stress hormones flood your system, damaging your heart, weakening your immune system, and exhausting your mind. But pausing lowers that stress response. It helps your body return to balance. Over time, this balance preserves your energy and makes you stronger. Learning to pause takes practice. At first, you may fail often. You may react quickly and only realize later what you should have done. That's normal. Growth is not about perfection, but improvement. Each time you catch yourself a little earlier, each time you extend the pause a little longer, you strengthen the habit. Over time, it becomes natural. One way to train this is by rehearsing calm responses ahead of time. If you know certain situations trigger you, decide beforehand how you want to respond. Then when the trigger comes, pause and follow your plan. This preparation reduces the pressure of the moment. You don't have to invent calm in chaos. You already know the steps. Another helpful practice is counting. When you feel emotions spike, silently count to 5 before reacting. Those 5 seconds may be the difference between exploding and staying steady. In those seconds, your body calms slightly, and your thinking brain re-engages. It sounds simple, but simple practices often hold the most power. Some people worry that pausing will make them look weak or indecisive. The opposite is true. Reacting without thought looks weak. Pausing shows strength. It shows that you control yourself, and people respect those who control themselves. It doesn't mean you never express emotion. It means you choose when and how to express it in a way that serves you instead of harms you. Pausing also creates space for empathy. When emotions rise, you usually see only your own perspective. But when you stop for a moment, you may recognize the other person's feelings too. That understanding can transform conflict into connection. Many fights are softened, not by winning, but by realizing what the other side is experiencing. A pause gives you the room to see that. This discipline will serve you not just in moments of conflict, but in moments of fear, loss, and uncertainty. When bad news arrives, you may want to panic. When disappointment hits, you may want to give up. But if you pause, you stop those impulses from taking control. You give yourself time to process, to grieve, to plan, to gather strength. That pause protects you from rash decisions and keeps you aligned with the life you truly want. It's worth remembering that a pause doesn't have to be long to be effective. Even 3 deep breaths can reset your state. Even walking out of the room for a minute can protect you from doing something you'll regret. The length doesn't matter, the presence of the pause does. Over time, pausing becomes part of your identity. You become the person who doesn't break under pressure. The person who stays calm when others lose control. The person who can be trusted in difficult moments. That identity shapes the way people see you, and it shapes the way you see yourself. You begin to live with more dignity, more calm, and more strength. So when you feel emotions rising quickly, remember this: you are not powerless. You can pause, you can take a breath, count to 5, step back, and choose your next move with clarity. That pause may look small, but it can save your relationships, your career, your health, and your peace of mind. Life will always bring moments that test your emotions. You can't avoid them, but you can decide how you meet them. Train yourself to pause, and you will discover that the difference between chaos and calm is often just a few seconds of silence. Those seconds belong to you, and when you claim them, you reclaim your power over your life.
Chapter 8. Protect your peace by limiting harmful distractions. Peace is one of the most valuable things you can hold on to when life feels heavy. Without it, your mind becomes restless, your body grows tense, and your choices lose clarity. When peace is gone, even small problems feel impossible to handle. The reality is, peace doesn't disappear by accident. It gets stolen by distractions that slowly drain your focus, energy, and strength. If you want to stay calm when everything around you feels uncertain, you must learn to protect your peace by limiting harmful distractions. A harmful distraction is anything that takes your attention, time, and emotions away from what actually matters and leaves you worse than before. It might be people who constantly bring negativity. It might be endless scrolling through social media. It might be gossip, pointless arguments, or unhealthy habits. These distractions feel harmless in the moment, but they eat away at your mental space.
They make you restless and prevent you from focusing on what will actually improve your life. If you don't learn to limit them, you'll find yourself exhausted and confused without even knowing why. Protecting your peace begins with awareness. Ask yourself, what in my daily life leaves me feeling drained? Who or what consumes my attention but gives me nothing good in return? Too many people ignore these questions, so they allow distractions to control their lives by default. The first step is recognizing them. You cannot remove what you haven't named. Once you see clearly what steals your peace, you can begin to guard yourself against it. One of the biggest distractions today is the flood of information. From the moment you wake up, you're bombarded with news, opinions, and content. Most of it is designed to capture your attention, not to build your strength. The more you consume, the more your mind is filled with noise. That noise creates chaos inside you. To protect your peace, you must take control of what you allow in. Limit the time you spend scrolling. Choose carefully what you watch, read, and listen to. If it doesn't add value or calm, reduce it. Every minute you give to mindless noise is a minute you steal from your own peace. Another distraction that destroys peace is toxic relationships. You know the type: people who complain constantly, criticize you without reason, or bring drama into every conversation. Being around them leaves you heavy instead of lifted. Protecting your peace doesn't mean hating these people, it means setting boundaries. You don't have to answer every call. You don't have to be available for every argument. You have the right to protect your energy. Surround yourself more often with people who support you, encourage you, and respect your space. That choice alone can transform your mental calm. Your own habits can also be harmful distractions. Sometimes it's not other people but the patterns you've built. Overeating, procrastination, binge watching, or constantly checking your phone. These habits feel like escapes, but they leave you more anxious and unsettled. Ask yourself honestly, does this action bring me peace, or take it away? The answer will guide you. Peace requires discipline, because if you give in to every impulse, you'll always be distracted. Discipline is not punishment, it's protection. It protects the space inside you where calm lives. Protecting your peace also means limiting your exposure. Ose unnecessary conflict. The world is full of arguments you don't need to join. Every debate online, every fight at work, every disagreement in your circle is not your responsibility. If you step into every battle, you'll drain yourself before you even begin your own journey. Learn the power of silence. Not every comment deserves a response. Not every criticism requires your defense. The moment you choose not to engage, you keep your peace intact. That is strength, not weakness. Another way to limit harmful distractions is by structuring your day with intention. Distractions thrive when you live without direction. If you wake up with no plan, you leave your attention open to anything that pulls. But when you decide ahead of time what matters most today, you close the door on many distractions. You give yourself a clear path to follow. Peace comes from knowing your time is spent on purpose, not wasted on noise. It's also important to recognize that not all distractions look harmful on the surface. Some even disguise themselves as productivity. For example, spending hours organizing tasks instead of actually doing them, or chasing every small project while ignoring the big one that really matters. These subtle distractions keep you busy but unfulfilled. Protecting your peace means being honest about whether you're moving forward or just moving in circles. Busyness without progress is one of the most stressful distractions of all. Limiting distractions is not just about removing things, it's about replacing them with better choices. If you cut down on negative media, fill that space with uplifting reading or meaningful conversation. If you reduce time with draining people, spend more time with those who inspire you. If you step away from unhealthy habits, replace them with routines that strengthen you. Nature, exercise, journaling, learning, or quiet reflection, all of these feed your peace instead of stealing it. Another essential part of protecting your peace is controlling your environment. Your surroundings influence your focus more than you realize. A cluttered space creates a cluttered mind. Loud environments make it harder to think. If you want calm inside, create calm outside. Organize your room, clear your desk. Choose music that soothes instead of overstimulates. When your environment supports your peace, distractions have less power. Technology itself is one of the most powerful sources of distraction, but it can also be managed. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Decide when you'll check your messages instead of being pulled every time your phone lights up. Create time blocks where you are unreachable so you can focus deeply. Technology doesn't have to rule your attention. If you master it, you protect your peace. If you let it master you, chaos follows. There's also a mental layer to this. Sometimes the most harmful distractions are not outside, but inside. Your own thoughts, worries about the future, regrets about the past, constant self-criticism. These thoughts pull your attention away from the present. Protecting your peace means limiting even these inner distractions. You do that by noticing them and replacing them with more useful thoughts. Gratitude, self-encouragement, and focus on the present moment all push back against mental noise. Protecting peace requires courage, because often you'll have to make choices that others don't understand. You may distance yourself from certain groups, reduce your online presence, or decline invitations that don't serve you. People may question you, but remember, they don't live with the cost of your lost peace. You do. You are responsible for guarding it. If you don't, no one else. Over time, as you limit distractions, you'll notice something powerful. Your energy rises, your mind feels clearer, and your emotions become steadier. You'll have more patience, more focus, and more strength to deal with real problems. Peace is not the absence of challenges, it's the presence of clarity. And clarity only comes when distractions are removed. Ask yourself today, what is stealing my peace? Is it the endless noise of my phone, the people who bring constant negativity, the habits that leave me drained, or the thoughts that never stop spinning? Write them down. Decide which ones you can limit, reduce, or remove. Take one step today, then another tomorrow. Each step is a way of saying, my peace matters, my calm is worth protecting. Because in the end, your peace is not a luxury, it's the foundation for everything else. Without it, you can't think clearly, you can't build strongly, and you can't heal fully. But with it, you can face any difficulty with strength. Guard it, limit what harms it, and watch how much calmer, stronger, and more focused you become, even when life around you feels uncertain.
Chapter 9. Seek comfort from people who bring real support. When life feels like it's collapsing around you, one of the worst things you can do is try to carry it all alone. Pain becomes heavier when it's hidden. Fear grows louder when it's not shared. Struggles feel endless when there's no one to remind you that you're not walking through them by yourself. Human beings were not built to survive in isolation. We are wired for connection. That's why one of the strongest steps towards staying calm during chaos is to seek comfort from people who bring real support. Real support doesn't mean people who only tell you what you want to hear. It means people who care enough to listen when you're hurting, people who remind you of your strength when you forget, people who steady you when you're close to falling apart. These are not just acquaintances, not just those who are around when times are easy, but those who stay close when life feels unbearable. Surrounding yourself with these people builds a shield around your peace, and leaning on them helps you find the strength to continue. Too many people make the mistake of closing themselves off when life gets hard. They think asking for support is weakness, they fear judgment, or they don't want to burden others. But holding everything inside doesn't protect you, it damages you. It isolates you, and isolation magnifies the pain. What feels manageable with the right people around you can feel impossible when you're alone. Seeking comfort is not weakness. It is a form of wisdom,
because it recognizes that strength grows through connection. The first step in this practice is identifying who truly supports you. Not everyone in your circle can fill this role. Some people drain you more than they help. Others minimize your struggles or turn conversations back to themselves. Real support comes from those who make you feel heard and respected, not judged or dismissed. It comes from those who don't compete with your pain or try to outdo it with their own stories. It comes from those who remind you through their presence that you are not facing this alone. Once you've identified these people, give yourself permission to reach out. It can be as simple as a phone call, a text, or asking to meet for coffee. Sometimes you don't even need advice, you just need to be with someone who makes you feel safe. That act of reaching out lightens the burden instantly. You may not solve the problem, but you no longer carry the weight in silence. The relief of being understood is often enough to restore calm. It's important to understand that support is not always about answers. Many times people don't know how to fix what you're going through, and that's okay, because their presence itself is the medicine. Knowing someone is willing to sit with you in your pain, knowing someone cares enough to stand by you, is more powerful than 1,000 pieces of advice. Presence brings comfort, and comfort rebuilds calm. When you seek support, be honest about what you need. If you want someone just to listen, say so. If you need encouragement, ask for it. If you want practical help, make that clear. People can't read your mind, but many will gladly offer exactly what you need if you give them the chance. Being direct helps you receive the kind of comfort that actually strengthens you. Also, remember that seeking comfort is not only about taking. True support is mutual. There will be times when you are the one offering strength to others. These exchanges build bonds that last. They create relationships where both sides feel safe, valued, and cared for. In those bonds, peace grows naturally. Support doesn't always come from family or close friends. Sometimes the people who bring real comfort are mentors, counselors, or support groups who understand what you're facing. There is no shame in seeking help outside your immediate circle. In fact, expanding your sources of support strengthens you. The more positive connections you create, the more resilience you build. Another part of this practice is learning to limit time with people who pretend to support but actually make things worse. Some individuals bring negativity, constant criticism, or unhealthy comparisons. They leave you feeling smaller instead of stronger. Protecting your calm means choosing carefully where you seek comfort. Go to the people who lift, not those who drag down. If you open up to the wrong people, you risk deepening your pain. But when you open up to the right people, you multiply your strength. It's also worth noting that sometimes you don't even need words. Comfort can come in the form of silence with someone who cares. Sitting together, sharing a meal, walking side by side. These simple moments can restore calm more than 100 conversations. Human presence itself carries healing power. Knowing someone is simply there can remind you that you are not abandoned. Seeking comfort is not about running away from your responsibility to face challenges. It's about gaining the emotional energy to face them better. When someone stands beside you, you think clearer, you feel steadier, and you make stronger choices. That stability is what helps you continue moving forward. Don't wait until you're at your breaking point to seek support. Make it a habit even during smaller struggles. By building those connections regularly, you create a foundation of trust that will hold you when the bigger storms come. It's much harder to reach out for the first time in the middle of crisis. If you've already cultivated relationships of support, leaning on them becomes natural. It's also important to remind yourself that you deserve support. Many people convince themselves that their problems aren't important enough, that others have it worse, or that they should be strong on their own. This mindset is harmful. Every human deserves comfort in times of pain. Every human deserves connection. Denying yourself this need only deepens suffering. Accepting support allows healing to begin. In the long run, Seeking comfort from supportive people teaches you humility. It reminds you that you are not invincible, and that's not a flaw, it's part of being human. Admitting that you need others doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. Wisdom is knowing that collective strength is greater than individual struggle. If you practice this consistently, you'll notice how much calmer you feel even during care. Problems won't vanish, but your resilience will rise. You'll walk into challenges knowing you have people who will catch you if you stumble. That assurance changes the way you carry yourself. You stop fearing every storm because you know you're not standing in it alone. So when life feels unbearable, don't hide away. Don't trick yourself into thinking silence is strength. Pick up the phone, send the message, sit down with someone you trust. Speak your truth, cry if you need to. Let their presence remind you that you are still connected, still valued, still cared for. That connection is not just comfort, it is a shield for your peace and a foundation for your strength. Because in the end, calm doesn't come only from what you do alone. It comes from knowing that when life falls apart, there are hands ready to hold you, voices ready to encourage you, and hearts ready to walk with you. Seek that comfort, and you'll discover that even in your hardest moments, peace can return.
Chapter 10. Grow stronger by turning struggles into daily lessons. Every struggle you face carries something inside it that can make you stronger if you are willing to learn from it. The problem is that most people see struggles only as interruptions, punishments, or unfair events that take away their peace. They spend so much time wishing those struggles never happened that they miss the lessons that could transform them. If you want to stay calm when life falls apart, you must decide that your struggles are not just problems to survive, but lessons to learn. Every day, in every difficulty, there is a chance to grow. Think about your own life. The times you remember most are not when everything was easy, but when things were hard and you had to push through. You may not have liked those moments, but they shaped you. They taught you about patience, about resilience, about endurance. They revealed what you could handle. That is the power of struggle. It breaks away illusions and forces you to discover the strength you didn't know you had. But this only happens when you pay attention and treat each struggle as a teacher. The first step is to stop asking only, "Why me?" and start asking, "What can I learn here?" This shift changes everything. "Why me?" keeps you stuck in self-pity. "What can I learn?" moves you forward. You may not find the lesson immediately. Some lessons reveal themselves only with time. But by asking the question, you open yourself to growth instead of closing yourself in bitterness. When you begin to see struggles as lessons, you start noticing the details. A financial setback might teach you discipline with money. A broken relationship might teach you about communication, boundaries, or self-respect. A failure at work might teach you humility or persistence. These lessons are not given in textbooks, they are written into the hardships of your life. If you ignore them, the struggle feels wasted. If you study them, the struggle becomes valuable. Learning from struggles requires honesty. It is easy to blame others, to point at circumstances, or to tell yourself it was all unfair. But growth comes when you admit your own part. When you look in the mirror and see what needs to change. Maybe it's your habits, maybe it's your mindset, maybe it's your discipline. Facing this truth hurts, but it's how you turn pain into progress. If you always avoid responsibility, you keep repeating the same lessons until life forces you to learn them. Another part of turning struggles into lessons is writing them down. Reflection is clearer on paper. After you go through something difficult, ask yourself, what happened? How did I react? What could I have done differently? What did I discover about myself? By putting these answers on paper, you make the lesson tangible. Later, when you face something new, you can look back and remind yourself of the wisdom you've already gained.
It's also important to turn lessons into action. Learning is not just about knowing, it's about changing how you live. If a struggle teaches you patience, practice patience in your daily interactions. If it teaches you the value of health, make better choices for your body. If it teaches you the importance of planning, start organizing your time. Each lesson should show up in your habit. That's how you grow stronger instead of staying the same. Some struggles repeat because the lesson hasn't been learned yet. You may notice patterns in your life, similar problems showing up again and again. That's not coincidence. It's life reminding you that until you change, the same challenges will return. Once you learn the lesson, the pattern often breaks. That is why it's so important to pay attention and not waste your pain. Every repeated struggle is an opportunity to finally master the lesson you've been avoiding. Struggles also teach you about other people. You learn who truly cares about you, who is reliable, and who only stays around when things are easy. Difficult times reveal the truth about relationships. That truth may be painful, but it's valuable. It allows you to build your life around people who strengthen you instead of weaken you. That lesson alone can save you years of wasted energy. Another powerful lesson struggles bring is humility. Success makes you confident, but failure makes you humble, and humility is essential for growth. When you're humble, you listen more, you learn faster, and you connect more deeply with others. Without humility, you think you already know everything. Struggles strip away arrogance and remind you that you are still learning. That reminder, though painful, is one of the greatest gifts struggle can give. Turning struggles into lessons also builds resilience. Each time you face hardship and learn from it, you grow tougher for the next challenge. You stop fearing difficulties because you know they hold value. You stop asking for an easy life and start building the skills for a strong life. Over time, people around you notice your steadiness. They see that while others break down, you keep rising. That reputation is not built in comfort, it is built in struggle. To grow stronger, you must also change your perspective on failure. Failure is not the opposite of success, it is part of it. Every failure contains information. It shows you what doesn't work. It forces you to adjust. Without failure, you would never refine your methods or deepen your discipline. Instead of letting failure break your spirit, let it teach you. Ask, what did this show me? What must I do differently next time? If you treat failure this way, it becomes fuel instead of poison. Struggles also train gratitude. When you go through darkness, you appreciate light more deeply. When you know loss, you value presence. When you face uncertainty, you treasure stability. Gratitude is not just about being thankful in good times, it's about seeing the lessons in hard times. Gratitude keeps you from drowning in negativity. It helps you recognize that even pain can produce something valuable. The discipline of turning struggles into lessons must be practiced daily. Don't wait until years later to look back. Each evening, ask yourself, what did I face today? What did it teach me? Even on small days, lessons exist. Maybe you learned patience in traffic. Maybe you learned discipline in resisting a distraction. These small lessons build your strength for bigger struggles. Growth is not just in the big events. It's in the daily reflections that sharpen your mind and strengthen your spirit. It's also important to share your lessons with others. When you open up about what you've learned, you help someone else who might be facing a similar struggle. Teaching reinforces your own growth. It reminds you that your pain wasn't wasted. It became a tool to help others. That sense of purpose can transform how you view your hardships. You stop seeing them as random suffering and start seeing them as part of a larger process of growth and contribution. Turning struggles into lessons doesn't mean ignoring the pain. It doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. Pain is real, but it does mean refusing to let pain be the end of the story. Instead, you make it the beginning of strength. You decide that if you must go through hardship, you will come out wiser, stronger, and more prepared for the future. That decision is what separates those who collapse under pressure from those who rise above it. So the next time life knocks you down, resist the urge to ask only for relief. Instead, ask for wisdom, ask for the eyes to see the lesson, then commit to applying what you learn. With each lesson, you'll notice your perspective shifting. What once terrified you will no longer shake you as deeply. What once overwhelmed you will now feel manageable. That's growth, that's strength, and as the lessons pile up, so will your confidence. You'll look back one day and see that the struggles you thought would destroy you were actually shaping you into someone stronger, calmer, and more resilient than you ever imagined. That is the power of turning struggles into daily lessons. You cannot control when the difficulties come, but you can control how you respond. If you choose to learn, you choose to grow, and if you grow, no struggle is ever wasted.